Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SNAG Tidal and Waves West Africa. We're about to start the fresh focused part of the program. This program focuses on early career artists whose work pushes the boundaries of materials, techniques, and socio-political issues. Before we get started, I wanted to give a thanks to our sponsor, Percosin Arts School of Fine Craft. Our first presenter is going to be Atinuke Adeleke. Atinuke is an interdisciplinary artist, a graduate of University of North Texas, the owner and lead designer of the jewelry brand Zuri Pearl. Her artistic practice centers around personal history, connection, and identity, a reflection on her experience as a Nigerian who has lived on 3 continents thus far, and how those experiences have led to the deconstruction, reassembly, and hybridization of her identity. Her current body of work includes sculpture and fiber pieces that incorporate the traditional culture and practices of the place she once called home, Nigeria. Western traditional woodworking techniques and modern processes such as CAD, 3D printing, and CNC routing. Adeleke's work has been in exhibitions held at notable institutions and galleries like the African Museum in Dallas, Craighead Green Gallery in Dallas, Touchstone Gallery in Washington, D.C., Atlanta Gallery, NYC, and Ellington White Contemporary Gallery in North Carolina. Her accessories have graced runways at New York Fashion Week, Kansas City Fashion Week, and is also featured in Italian L'Europa Weekly Style magazine, Fox 4KC, Say Yes to the Dress, CNN Africa. In 2020, she was one of the 50 artists selected by New York City Jewelry Week for the Here We Are initiative that focuses on BIPOC jewelry artists. Here's Atinuke's presentation. Thank
you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Atinuke Adeleke. I'm an interdisciplinary artist, a graduate of the University of North Texas, and the owner and lead designer of the body adornment, home and body adornment brand, Zuri Pearl. As an artist and business owner, I've had the opportunity to have my accessories grace runways at New York Fashion Week and Kansas City Fashion Week. We've been featured in Weekly Style magazine, Fox, Say Yes to the Dress, CNN, to name a few. In 2020, I was one of 50 artists selected by New York City Jewelry Week for the Here We Are initiative that focuses on BIPOC jewelry artists. My work has been in exhibitions held at notable institutions and galleries like the African American Museum here in Dallas, Craighead Green Gallery, Touchstone Gallery, Washington, D.C., Atlantic Gallery, New York City, and I'm currently exhibiting in a 2-person show at Daisha Board Gallery at the Jewels in downtown Dallas. I also teach digital art foundations at Texas Women's University, and I am a mom and a wife. So a little bit about my artistic practice. It centers around personal history, connection, and identity. So I reflect on my experience as a Nigerian who has lived on 3 continents thus far, and how these experiences have led to the deconstruction, reassembly, and hybridization of my identity. My work pays homage to my tribe of origin, Yoruba, whilst redefining and exploring the hybridity that exists as a result of cross-cultural influences that are prominent in our world today. So I incorporate varying objects and materials such as jewelry, sculpture, wood, metal, and fiber. This integration speaks to the multicultural existence of the world that I live in, the interrelationship between Nigeria and the West. So the process of making serves as a means to represent and resolve my internal conflicts. Being a product of a hybridization of cultures, I'm fascinated by the resulting novelty that occurs when 2 or more unlike things are crossed. This sense of hybridization and displacement speaks to how I feel about myself and the space of belonging that I seek to create in my practice. With the world becoming a smaller and smaller space due to globalization, the internet, and social media, more and more people find themselves not fitting into familiar molds as a result of exposure to varying experiences and cultures. So these are some of my points of interest, and I particularly interested in the hybridization of techniques, materials, and symbols, combining traditional artisan techniques, mediums with modern technological practices such as computer-aided design and 3D printing. Also, one of my favorites is the embellishment and integration of metal in wood. Excuse me. So my current work focuses on the fusion and relationship of varying materials, like I mentioned before. These materials, they hold weight and significance in my culture, and traditionally you can find them in attires, divination trays, doors and panels and palaces, and stools of authority. The image on the right to the text is the door leading to my parents' bedroom in Ibadan, Nigeria. And the image to the furthest to the right is of an Agemo chief leaning on a stool. And I came across this image while doing research for my graduate studies. And this chief is from the same village that my father is from, Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State, Nigeria. So a little bit about the process of inlaying metal into wood. It involves creating a thin cut in the wood by stabbing the wood with a gouge or chisel and embedding a ribbon of wire into the cavity. You can burnish the metal to have it sit flush with the surface of the wood, or you can have a relief above the surface, and that decoration is called encrusting. Now, in the West, inlay can be in metal or on wood. I specifically chosen to focus at the moment on wood. Metal inlay usually involves materials such as gold, silver, or copper alloys, whilst wood inlay involves ivory, bone, horn, mother of pearls, turtle shells, or silver or gold wire. I choose copper because it's less expensive. Now, the technique of decorating arms and armor with inlay, which is far back into antiquity, it was certainly known during the Mycenaean period when daggers were inlaid with patinated metal, and it remained one of the most common methods of decorating arms and armor until modern times. And I came across this technique of inlaying metal actually with gunstock inlaying. That's how I first stumbled upon this and fell in love. Excuse me, I have allergies, so. And this is another image of a crossbow with wood inlay. Now, the inlay process that I utilize involves cold metal and molten metal. For the cold metal process, I used hard maple wood for the cold metal inlay because it grows in the United States and it's readily accessible. It has a good resistance to abrasion, a fine even texture, high shrinkage, and its pale coloring is great for staining. Maple is used commonly here in the United States for gunstock inlaying, and it's also called rough maple, sugar maple, or white maple. For the molten metal inlay, I use a metal with a low melting point, and this ensures that it's less likely for the wood to catch on fire. The process involves pouring molten metal into a cavity carved into the wood, and this cavity can be carved using a flex shaft or Dremel with a burr. Or we can use equipments like the CNC router. So in this piece, Ominira, you can see the molten metal pour, which is the silver inlay that you can see, and then the copper wire that was embedded that accentuates the silver pour, or the molten metal pour. It's not silver. And in Ìdánimọ̀, I applied the same technique with the molten metal pour into the wood, but I went further by creating connecting lines in Adobe After Effects and then projecting those lines onto the surface of the wood. And the result was it acted as a connection point between the relief, the face that was reliefed on top of the wood. So in my research into integrating metal and wood, I became fascinated with the idea of electroplating wood. And that just means plating wood with copper. Now, the natural state of wood does not work well with the electroplating process because it involves immersing the wood in a bath filled with liquid. And so I started to look into alternative materials that could be used to achieve the result that I was aiming for. I found success in electroplating 3D printed wood-infused PLA. Wood PLA is made from standard PLA, but it's infused with very fine powdered wood material. So this allows you to make 3D prints that have a distinctly wood-like finish. And you can actually stain and sand it just like you can wood. I went too far. Uh-oh. There we go. So in the top left of the screen, this is a rendering of a neck collar that has a Celtic key pattern on it. The pattern, key patterns are found worldwide. I chose this particular pattern because of the similarity to patterns that are found on the Adire and Ankara fabrics worn by the Yoruba people and other tribes in Nigeria. So you can see the Adire fabric right here on the right of your screen. Decorated cloth is often a powerful, expressive medium in African life. It's a kind of visual language that can be read by those familiar with it. And in general, textile from Africa represents varied cultural traditions, ethnicities, historical events, and cultural identities. In African societies of oral traditions, cloth, clothing, and visual arts in general serve as a medium for the communication of meanings and therefore the transmission of knowledge through graphic systems in association with images and written words or combined patterns that convey proverbs. So I applied the Celtic key pattern based on that, the similarity to the fabric, just thinking of identity and location and how those things connect. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see the initial stages of electroplating the 3D printed wood PLA. So there were a number of failed attempts at this process, but I eventually succeeded. And you can see the technique evident in this piece, Oju Tonsoro. I utilized a combination of techniques for this piece. I inlaid strips of metal into the wooden pendants to create a pattern. And then a sheet of copper metal with a set cabochon is also set into the wood. And the pendants are suspended below an electroplated 3D printed collar. You can see hints of the wood in some spots on the collar. And this is my way of telling the viewer that there is more than one layer to this piece. So I applied the same technique to the piece Ogiri Iroti. The relief objects are 3D printed wood, electroplated with copper. So I varied the levels of electroplating in the pieces, targeting specific areas and leaving some pieces partially or completely plated. So with the bowl here, it is almost completely plated, and with the bear, it's partially plated. And the same can be said for this piece down here, where I targeted certain spots and exposed the wooden layer underneath in certain spaces. And in this mask here, where it is completely plated in copper. So my goal is to keep experimenting with these mediums and techniques and to see how I can push the boundaries by combining traditional artisan techniques with modern technological practices, speaking to a hybridization of spaces, cultures, people, and time, that is the past and the present. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. And if you are interested in seeing more of my work, this is my personal website and my business website and my social media handles. I will also be exhibiting at the other art fair in October, 5th to 8th. And I will be exhibiting at the Amarillo Museum of Art biennial, October 14th to December 13th. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Atinuke. It was powerful to learn about wood inlay techniques and also to hear more about your individual practice. Our next presenter is Glover Marfo. Glover was born in Ghana, West Africa. He obtained his BA degree in Integrated Rural Arts and Industry in 2014 from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana. He received a Master of Arts in Studio Art at Eastern Illinois University in Charleston, Illinois in 2020. In 2023, he received a Master of Fine Arts at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio, and is currently teaching jewelry and metalsmithing and digital fabrication there. Here's Glover's presentation.
Hello, everyone. I am glad to be part of this West African Tiding Waves Symposium. My name is Glover Marfo. I am an artist and an educator, and I was born in Ghana, West Africa. I started my academic journey from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Ghana, where I was the top graduating student of my department, which is the Department of Integrated Rural Arts and Industry. I currently hold a Master's of Arts degree from Eastern Illinois University and a Master's of Fine Arts degree from Miami University. I am currently serving as a visiting professor at Miami University, where I'm teaching metalsmithing and jewelry design and digital fabrication, which is 3D printing and laser cutting. Most of the work that I'm going to show today is going to be pieces that are very personal to me, because I'm going to share a deeply personal journey, that is rooted in my upbringing from West Africa, Ghana. This narrative is not only about my life, but a testament of the strength of the human spirit and the power of resilience that has taken me beyond the borders or the boundaries of Ghana, West Africa, where I was born. The outline of today's presentation is going to look at 5 different sections. We are going to first look at the general overview of my history as an artist, the 3 E's, which is very pivotal to me in my works, the materials and techniques I use as an artist, my thematic concept, and my current practice as an artist. So my working process as an artist takes the 3 E's which I've outlined in the slide. And when I say the 3 E's, these are exploration, experimentation, and engagement. These elements hold profound significance in my practice as an artist. So when I say exploration, what do I mean? This involves delving into complex web of societal issues that are prevalent in my home country, Ghana, and trying to find ways to solving these issues. Through a thorough research and deep understanding of these issues, I gain valuable insight that serves as the foundation to which these societal issues can be kept. Exploration allows me to identify the crux of problems that needs address in my home country, and in so doing, I'm able to use jewelry not as merely ornamental pieces, but pieces that carry substantial message of purpose within my society. The next one that I talk about is experimentation. When I say experimentation, what do I mean? This means translating my exploratory ideas into tangible and thought-provoking works. It involves pushing the boundaries of materials, pushing the boundaries of traditional techniques, and pushing the boundaries of traditional designs. Through this, I'm able to create jewelries that meet or address the issues of my society. Experimentation doesn't just do that, it also encourages me to think innovatively and create artworks that allows me to add symbolism and aesthetic that will meet the demands of my audience. By experimenting with these materials and forms, I'm able to create jewelry that is able to use art as both artistic expression and social commentary. Finally, what I want to talk about is engagement. When I say engagement, that is the last but most important part of my design process, because engagement helps me invite viewers and wearers of my piece to engage in meaningful conversation. In so doing, the artwork does not just become something that I made, but it becomes something that is very tangible to the people who engage and people who experience the artwork. I then use my artwork as a form of advocacy that highlight issues within my society. The interplay of experimentation, and engagement helps me use a holistic approach that ensures that my jewelry does not only being used as mere adornment, but it serves as a powerful vehicle that helps in creating awareness, reflection, and a change within my community. So, as I intimated in the introductory part of my presentation, I am from Ghana, West Africa, and Ghana is known for our rich kente cloth. This kente cloth hold a very significant part of my design inspiration and my design process. Looking at the work that I'm going to show you after the slides. For me, it does not only talk about the beauty of the kente cloth or how nice it looks, it serves as a profound inspiration and have rich cultural meanings attached to it. As an artist, I deeply resonate with the traditional utilization of the kente cloth in telling and addressing social issues. In 2020, the Congressional Black Caucus adorned kente cloth as a means of showing their Black heritage. Not just that, they also used it as a means to show their solidarity. This gesture underscores the essential or the most important part of kente cloth, not just as a cloth that has beautiful patterns, beautiful colors, but as a cloth that is being used as a vehicle to talk about potent issues of identity, culture, and inequalities. Kente weaving or kente cloth is not the only place that I get my reference from or my inspiration. Basket weaving, an art that is deeply ingrained in my childhood experience growing up in Ghana and stands as a testament to the enduring significance of traditional crafts within the rich history of our culture, is also a source of inspiration to me. In my hometown, Asamankese, Ghana, where I grew up, happens to have agriculture as our lifeline or has been part of our lifeblood within the community, with over 80% of our people being farmers or working as menial farming. It is very, very indispensable part of our lives because of the role that farming plays in our lives. And as a result of that, most of these people use basketry or we use baskets in our daily activities. These meticulously woven vessels are not merely utilitarian but bear immense economic importance as we carry them to our field, to our farms, to our marketplaces, and they are used for farming cocoa, plantain, and other important farm produce. Recognizing the cultural value and the economic impact of this old craft, I made a conscious effort to adopt these weaving techniques into creating jewelry pieces that are very precious, transforming something that was first utilitarian into a cherished, precious piece. My work marries this basket weaving, the kente weaving from Ghana, with macrame weaving techniques, which is an American and a French design techniques. Through this artistic fusion, my objective is to create a cross-cultural interaction between the American weaving pattern and the Ghanaian weaving tradition, and thus elevating basketry to something that can be celebrated in our ever-evolving world. So in my next works that you are going to see, you are going to realize that I try to adopt this kente weaving pattern. My growing up as a kid, the techniques that I learned from basketry and also the macrame weaving pattern to kind of create this cross-cultural dialogue, this contemporary way of working within metal smithing. And this work, as you can see, I call it Fede de Femin, which is burden of being a woman. So as an artist, I try to create these pieces that will celebrate women, specifically my mom, my sisters, and women I grew up within the community with. And growing up within my society, I had to face harsh realities, which in my next set of work, I'm going to talk about them. So this work kind of celebrates my mom specifically, and I look at how my mom was relegated to the background when we were kids, and she kind of provided for everything as a woman in the house, but yet still her contributions, things she brought to the table were not appreciated. And that is not just about my mom, but this is a deeply rooted cultural narrative within my home country, and I'm trying to create this piece to celebrate her. And as you can see within this work, it is crafted like a crown. So I'm looking at the concept of crowns and how crowns kind of present empowerment and heroism, and I'm trying to redirect that energy within this neck piece that is worn by her. As you can see below the pieces, it looks like it is loose end, and I try to create this to show that it is still open for conversation and dialogue, and I'm trying to elevate the people who wore them. This jewelry was made as part of the woven series, and this is the second piece I made, and it is made to embody a unique, intricate pattern to be used as necklace and earring respectively. The design features a combination of woven materials that dangles or presents a form of embellishment, giving it an ethnic look. And when I say ethnic look, what do I mean? It means that I took reference from my cultural background, which is the kente and the basket weaving, and that is what I wanted to be embodied in this work that I kind of create. The decorative hooks does not only add to the aesthetic looks, but also acts as a function that reinforces the design that I made. Overall, the design of the necklace offers a very unique cultural vibe that also originates from my home country, Ghana, as I stated earlier on. The beautiful blend of this well-crafted patterns that are woven offers a form where I don't only use them as aesthetic purposes, but they become a form of cultural significance. One can realize that I put in DNA as part of the design in the slides, and the reason why I was putting in DNA is that because my work aims at addressing societal issues, I believe that women being given empower within my cultural system or within Ghana is something that needs to be dealt with the root. And as I believe DNA is the simplest form once you kind of disintegrate the human being as a living organism. And as a result, I believe that tackling this issue from the root will go a long way to solve or curb the issues of women always being relegated to the background in my home country, Ghana. This work happens to be part of the same weaving series that I made, and as one can see, this work has really sharp edges on them, and this was a work that I was making to serve as a form of defense for the wearers or people who kind of adorn this piece. Additionally, one can realize that when it comes to materiality, it is made of copper and nickel silver, and it is a choker together with a ring that I made to serve the same purpose. This artwork shows two distinct yet harmonious jewelry, as I said, a choker and a ring. Both pieces, as you can see, is crafted with keen attention to details, employing a deep knitted mesh that I wove together to form this piece. The choker and the necklace provide a very sleek bronze that goes around the neck, and which the woven details kind of come off it, providing it with a very intricate and cascading effect. This pendant is characterized by geometric designs, employing a very well-made squares that I knit together. The gradual flare, as you can see dangling from the down, creates a very asymmetric cascading effect, adding depth and visual interest to the design, as you can see. This work is what I made drawing from the concept of geometry and minimalism to create the piece that will help or reference the power of simplicity and how being simple with your creation can be very infectious. The grid pattern resonates with the theme of interconnectedness, how our relationships are intertwined, and the connections we share with other people, and how it is important to keep people close to you within your cultural or society where you find yourself. I call this piece Squatters. In this Squatters, I was trying to show this small space that we had to coexist in. We are in a family of 5, and ourselves and our mom had to live within this small shared space, and it kind of brings unbearable memory to me because we had to all dress within this same space, and it shows the shame that I went through or I experienced as a young guy, the uncertain times, the vulnerability that I grew up in. So all those coupled with those experiences, I started making these sculpture pieces, and that is what kind of led me to explore making defensive mechanisms. This work that you can see, the material that I used is the jute or the jute rope, and the jute represents a sack that we use in Ghana for transporting cocoa from Ghana to other parts of the world. Cocoa is what we use for making chocolate, and one thing about it is that during its transportation, we normally use these jute bags and we send them across Europe or America. But after that, the jute bag returns back home and they are used for collecting charcoal, and they are not kind of used for those reason why the jute sack are made. So I'm just creating a metaphorical picture of how they are used. Like when we start using them, they are used for very important stuff, but after that they are kind of relegated to the background, and trying to lay it side by side how my mom was used and kind of relegated to the background. So most of the times, women within my culture, they are mostly used for reproductive purposes, but after that, when it comes to decision making, playing an important role within the society, they are not kind of looked with the same spectacle or the same lens. This picture, as you see, kind of calls upon how I started loving jewelry and metalsmith. Because I grew up in squatter housing, I mostly saw the rich culture of Ghana and how our people in authority, our chiefs and kings, used jewelry. So even growing up as a child, I saw our kings and our chiefs mostly put on very rich gold necklaces, bangles, rings, which kind of got me into jewelry making in the first place. But again, it is not just used for aesthetic purpose, but they put on this adornment to equally exert their authority and power. So jewelry and the adornment they wore, they use them to show their power to their subject. So I asked myself, as an artist, how can I use adornment as a way to kind of exert power? So one thing that I'm doing is that I'm taking the power as a young man within my cultural narrative, how these adornments are used to show power. I'm taking it and I'm using them to fashion jewelry adornment that could be worn by women to kind of put them in the place of power. So that is when I started what I call the defensive mechanism. And the defensive mechanism are just adornment that are worn as a form of protective garment. So living within the squatter housing, I saw women maimed, not just maimed. Some of them were raped. Some of them were forced into early childhood. Some of them had to die. I had to lose some family members as well. So growing up, I always wanted to use my artwork not just to highlight issues, but also to serve a purpose of creating this defensive mechanism that they could wear or they could wear as part of the defensive mechanism series. Living within this squatter housing made me realize how inhumane some people can be. And as a result of this, I made this defensive mechanism pieces, which is called Home and Defensive Mechanism Femi. And it's a representation of my artistic exploration for protection and empowerment in our contemporary cultural landscape. This substantial necklace, marrying influences from my African tradition and contemporary aesthetic, serve as a cross-cultural wearable piece. Crafted from the combination of copper and willows, I manipulate these materials to create a visually compelling effect that restrains people, pushing the boundaries of their traditional functions of these materials. In doing so, I underscore the role of fashion as a means of personal expression and visual communication. When worn, this adornment transforms into an offensive garment, acting as a fortress that restrains or provide restriction to the people who potentially threaten them and deny access to predators who will come to the people wearing these pieces. Drawing from inspiration of architectural and Baroque design, my childhood experience was creating safe space for people, and that really shaped into the work that I make currently. My work is targeted at vulnerable groups that provides them with survival and protection, and the design is made to kind of negotiate space between the wearer of the piece and the viewer, thereby taking power from the viewer and giving it to the wearer. Its significant size does not only serve as an aesthetic purpose but elevates the wearer, imbuing them with a sense of empowerment. Additionally, I draw inspiration from living organisms and how they devise mechanisms to protect themselves. So when I talk about living organisms, I look at living organisms like porcupines, how they have quills. I look at living organisms like elephants, how they have trunks. I look at living organisms like cows, how they have horns. When you look at the materials that I use, I mostly employed willows, which are unconventional materials when it comes to traditional metal smithing. And these willows, a friend of mine asked me, how do I do them? Because they come really straight, and how am I able to make them coil or spiral? It takes a very long process of me soaking the straight willows in a water tank for about 2 weeks. And after that, I will have to damp them. This is a process where you put the willows in a wet towel or in a wet bathing towel for about 1.5 weeks to render it extra flexible. In so doing, once you start coiling it around the form, it will not break, and it will make it easy to be twisted around any form that you have. After 1.5 weeks, I then take the shape that I want the willows to take and coil it around the shape, and I leave it for about close to a week for the willows to dry. And once it dries, it takes the form of the shape that you want. This piece is part of the protective or defensive mechanism series, and I call this piece personal space. And as you can see visually, this piece is created to act as a form of protection on the front part of the wearer and on the back side of the wearer as well. Personal space is a profoundly personal piece that I created as a form of tribute and a memorial to a beloved family who tragically passed away during pregnancy due to domestic abuse. Living in this quarter housing or the place where I was raised up, it's a very rough place, and it's sometimes makes it unbearable, especially when you live there as a family. This artwork drew deeply from my own narrative, seeking to transform it into a form of protective adornment, a shield for pregnant women and those who endure abuse. The tragedy of her demise served as a stark reminder of the urgency to provide safety and sanctuary to vulnerable individuals and vulnerable groups who need protection. As one can see, it is made to conform to the wearer's belly because a family member that I lost during that time was pregnant, and creating an intimate and secure enclosure and an interior space that creates comfort for the person who wears it as well as gives her protection. Crafted from wood, copper, patina, and willow, this work serves as a means of healing to me and to people who have experience of losing people through domestic abuse. The reason why I use willow is that one will realize that willows are dead plants once I get them, but I'm able to soak them in water for weeks, reuse them into something that is able to provide protection for people who are done my pieces. It will be one of my most favorite pieces among this series. It is one of my most cherished because I was able to incorporate my traditional weaving and also bring in the protective part of my adornment that I create. And with this piece, I call it territorial defense. And one reason that I do this, I was working on this piece, was to be able to create a form of defense or a form of protection for parts of the human body that were vulnerable. So we realized that beneath the chest, I try to cover parts of the human body that are very vulnerable, that is susceptible to attacks. So I try to cover the back, that is the back of the neck where the person cannot see someone coming to attack her from. And that is why I made this piece specifically, to protect parts of the body of the human that are very vulnerable and cannot be easily protected when one is living within his or her community. My work is certainly intertwined with my own life experience. These experiences are marked by sorrow, they are marked by triumph, they are marked by adversity, and all these experiences becomes a wellspring for my inspiration. It makes me delve deep into my reservoir of my past, drawing from both mundane and profound memories that infuses my work and brings it a level of authenticity, and not just that, but equally gives it a depth of emotional connection. This personal connection offers me a life experience that I'm able to use my narrative to create these art pieces, giving the art pieces a uniquely human experience. As you can see on the left, this is a bullet piece that I made, and the bullet piece I made was started during an open studio session when I explained my work to a lady who came there, and she shared her vulnerable time with me of how she had an issue with her parents, and she gave me a bullet, and she asked me to explore how I could use or fashion bullets out of this jewelry that I said I'm using for defensive mechanism. So I decided to explore how I could use bullets that looks like something that is very scary, not just scary but fearful, and how I could use it to create something that can offer a little bit of playfulness but still convey the idea of protection and can convey the idea of personal space. So that is what I did for the left design, which I called Bullet Halo, made of copper, bullet casing, and patina. And on the left, one can see that I have specific symbols from my home country, Ghana, that equally convey the idea of protection, and I'm using them to kind of create this dialogue of defensive mechanism in space. The final part of my work that I want to talk about is my ring series, and you realize that I have about 3 or 4 ring series that I added to this group. Even though I have so many, I decided to choose just 3. And this ring series started when I realized that my work that I was exploring or researching about was to create protection for people who wear them. But I had a constraint because the works were big and the works could not be used always. So I decided to ask myself, how can I create something that people can wear everywhere, every time, and it could be used as a form of protection for them. So I started exploring how I could use ring, and that can be worn every time. And that is why I decided making this adornment. But I also asked myself, how can I fashion something that embodies grace, not just grace, but it also embodies force at the same time. So most of my ring, the idea that I had behind it was to be used as protection, but also convey the idea of elegance. So most of the pieces embody force and grace. The ring typically regarded as a personal item of adornment, but has its own symbolism to it. But with this ring, I gave it an additional role of being used as a means of protection. For some people, they use the ring as a form of accessory But with me, it becomes a discrete tool that one can use as a form of self-defense against vulnerabilities and against potential attackers as well. Beyond the practicality of its application being used as a form of self-defense, you realize that I have tones on them that kind of makes the people or the viewer who sees it backs off immediately. Not just that, I decided to equally make the rings very big so that it can also make the people or the assailants less inclined to targeting the groups or the people who were them. This concept that I use is called target hardening, and I try to use it so that people who see how big the ring is or the tongues that comes with the ring, it will just scare them off the people who wore them. Finally, these are the ring sets that I made, and this is called the camouflage. And the process that I adopted for this specific ring is I carved it out of wax, and I made molds of it, and I decided to cast it out. And that is the same process for the next series of rings that I made. My next subject topic talks about where I've shown my works. I've been privileged to have my work shown in the Blue Line Gallery, where it gives emerging artists an opportunity to showcase their works and also to show their works to that part of the United States of America. I've been chosen as the emerging artist, part of the emerging artists for 2023 by the Ohio Craft Museum, where I was given an opportunity to equally show my works. For the Blue Line Gallery and the Ohio Craft Museum, I was given an opportunity to present my work to a wide range of groups and diverse people, where they all fell in love with my work. Additionally, I've had my work shown at the Contemporary Art Center in Cincinnati, and at the Contemporary Art Center, I was offered an opportunity to give an artist talk, and not just that, I was also given an opportunity to display my work. And as you can see in this slide, during my artist talk, I was given an opportunity to show my work on both white and black mannequins, which informed me in my subsequent exhibitions how I want to show my work. Because in this exhibition, an issue came up of is my work a pushback against race? Is it a pushback against racism? And all those things informed me in my subsequent exhibitions that I went to. I've also been given an opportunity to go to Penland School of Craft, where I studied for 2 weeks at the Penland School of Craft, and also during Arrowmont, I was also given an opportunity to study there, and all this contributed enormously to my metalsmithing journey. Finally, this is my current art practice and where I am as an artist. Currently, I'm kind of exploring how traditional techniques can merge with contemporary techniques, that is 3D modeling, 3D designs, and trying to inculcate both of them in my practice. So that is where I am as an artist. And all the works that comes are works that these are pieces I made out of 3D design. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to SNAG for giving me this opportunity to showcase my work to the world and sharing my life experience with everybody who is looking at this work. I want to express my profoundest gratitude to Miami University and to Eastern Illinois University for giving me an opportunity to come to the United States to pursue my career and my goal as an artist. Thank you to everyone who is watching this video, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Glover, for showing us about your powerful and moving work. We really appreciate it. Our next presenter is Ìtùnú Omótósò. Ìtùnú is a self-taught multidisciplinary artist based in Ogun State, Nigeria. Their artistic practice is characterized by experimentation and collaboration, spanning paintings, jewelry making, sculpture, installations, and performances. Central to their artistic practices are the convergence of self-observation, self-exploration, environmental awareness, and fruitful collaborations with others. They view the material world as an integral part of their creative process, with their bodies serving as a primary medium for expression, whether through performances, working with upcycled materials, or paintings. This approach allows them to tap into their emotions and experiences. Ìtùnú's artistic focus revolves around people as mediums, mental health, and the environment, exploring the multifaceted layers of human realities. They believe that their artistic practice serves as a medium for nurturing and healing themselves, allowing them to impact their surroundings positively. In summary, Ìtùnú Omótósò is a talented artist whose work reflects their dedication to creativity, collaboration, and making a positive difference in the world through art. Here's Ìtùnú's presentation.
Hi, my name is Ìtùnú Omótósò, popularly known as Ìtùnú. I'm a self-taught multidisciplinary artist based in Ogun State, Nigeria. My artistic practice is characterized by experimentation and collaboration, spanning across jewelry making, sculptural installations, paintings, and performances. Central to my artistic practice is the convergence of self-observation, self-awareness, self-expression, environmental awareness, and fruitful collaborations with others. I view the material world as an integral part of my artistic process, with my body being, a primary medium for expression, whether through performances, working with upcycled materials, or paintings. This approach allows me to tap into my emotions and experiences. My artistic focus revolves around people as mediums, mental health, and the environment, exploring the multifaceted layers of human reality. I believe that my artistic practice serves as a means for nurturing and healing myself, allowing me to impact my surroundings positively. My work reflects my dedication to creativity, collaboration, and making a positive difference in the world through my art. I grew up in a local community where crafting and weaving with readily available palm fronds were major occupations. While raised in a foster home, resembling a boarding school, pretty much sheltered, I still had the opportunity to, experience the community's craftsmanship through observation while running errands. Though fascinated, I couldn't fully participate due to potential foster parents' reprimand. I would say at about the age of 11, I crafted basic glasses from a calendar's wire spiral band. But, my teachers then deemed it to be distracting. And, this is a sample of what that glasses had looked like then. In 2018, a pivotal encounter occurred at my mentor's studio, reigniting my affinity for creativity through the discovery of neglected copper wires. Guided by my mentor's encouragement, I embarked on a journey of crafting with copper wires, refining my skills by watching YouTube tutorials and engaging in hands-on experimentation. Also exposed to Ruta Sawa's works by a writer friend, I grew fond of copper's malleability and durability. A defining turning point materialized during my involvement in Duyar Hatug's market project, which entailed comprehensive research into copper's historical significance and the multifaceted applications. I unearthed its referred healing attributes in diverse pre-colonial sub-Saharan cultures, as well as contemporary spiritual practices. The symbiotic relationship between form and function profoundly shapes my artistic approach. Consequently, my creations encompass both utilitarian and ornamental aspects, combining practical with aesthetic delight. Through wearable and decorative objects, I aim to impact joy and enhance well-being. Intriguingly, my creations, especially the copper jewelry, are believed to enhance pH scale, the pH balance scale, and offer potential relief for ailments like arthritis, blending artistic expression with potential holistic benefits. Iterating on glass frames led to collaborations like with Maxiville fashion brand, where I created glasses, masks, and earpieces. Biophilic installations followed for a Lagos restaurant, commissions and collaborations with design figures like Nifemi Bedo and Lagos Space Program ensued. While developing new works and collections, I aim to showcase them at festivals, galleries, and museums, hoping to, influence future generations' craftsmanship.
Thank you so much, Ìtùnú. We really appreciate it. And seeing your powerful and moving work as well. Now, we finished the presentation component of the Fresh Focus part of the symposium, but afterwards we're going to move to sessions for a conversation and discussion, which is going to be moderated by Aminata Conteh. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City, Aminata Conteh's practice hybridizes the histories and traditions of metalsmithing with weaving and basketry. She draws inspiration from the intersections of her experiences as a first-generation American and Sierra Leonean lineage. Conteh holds a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Metalsmithing and Jewelry from Mecca ND. She is a recipient of a 2021 Wingate Lamar Fellowship from the Center for Craft and currently works as the Marketing Communications Coordinator at Indigo Arts Alliance. Again, you all, thank you so much for joining us for the Fresh Focus part of the symposium. You can find Aminata, the artist, and the rest of us in the sessions part of the platform. If you look for sessions, it's underneath, again, the stage button, which is on the left of your screen. Thank you all so much, and these presentations were fantastic. Thank you.
Oh my God, Atinuke! Look at you.
How are you?
Oh my gosh, your work is I feel like I haven't gotten that much of a deep dive into your work before. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone's work is so amazing. I'm so excited to talk about it. It's gonna be so good.
I know. I feel like the last time we chatted was like during probably before thesis.
Yeah. Yeah, look at you. Look at you. Out here doing the things we love to see.
Trying.
Yes, no, succeeding. Hi, Clover. Hi, Ìtùnú. Well, I guess Lamar, I feel like this is it's first of all, it's lovely to meet you. I feel like this is your little red wagon. So just let me know whenever we're ready to start.
Oh, yeah. Feel free to jump in. I
Oh.
think we're still waiting on a few people to join in, but they can always watch back.
Okay,
I don't want to
amazing.
take away from this lovely conversation with all of you. Thank you all so much for bearing with me today. I apologize if I mispronounced anyone's name or if I messed up any of the colleges. I really appreciate y'all for bearing with me. Thank you.
You've been fantastic. No worries. Thank you. Well, I mean, it's so exciting to be able to talk with you all after those amazing presentations. And I don't know, I think I listening, watching the presentations in advance, but also sort of re-listening to them during that session, I was wondering if you, Atinuke, Glover, Ìtùnú, could speak a little bit more onto how you got into metalsmithing and jewelry specifically, because there are a lot of different and thriving craft practices in West Africa, in Nigeria, and Ghana specifically. And so I'm just wondering how you all navigated specifically to metalsmithing and jewelry. And anyone can take it.
Don't make me go first.
Okay, no.
Don't make me
I'm
go
not, I see Glover has not put his mic on, so I'm.
Yeah, I was waiting for Glover to say
He's
something.
trying. We need troubleshooting.
Okay, so mine's a very interesting journey because I wouldn't have gone into arts if I hadn't moved to the United States. Like it would not have been a thing in the bucket for me at all. Because as most of us who grew up in Africa know, pursuing art is not necessarily a thing your parents want to hear you talk about. They want you to do certain professions, which I did. I had a different life before this. I had a law degree. I went to law school. I did everything my parents wanted me to do. But then when I moved to the United States is when I realized my mother always said, if you work with your hands, you will never go hungry. And I I went with that rule, and I found the thing that I loved. And that's kind of how I ventured into metals, because when I moved into this country, I had no visa to work and I was pregnant and my husband was in grad school and he was barely making anything. So we had to figure out a way where I could work at home, not work, but, just make something while I was at home with a baby. So arts was my saving grace, was like that line that I could latch onto and hold on to and kind of pulled me out. And I've been following that line ever since. From like having my own jewelry business to, going back to school and doing graduate studies. And yeah, now I'm here. So metals is like my little savior.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you carry it well. It's wonderful to be able to see you on your journey. Yeah, thank you. Glover, I see you. Is your mic working? How are we doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Is it working?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And so I started arts at a very young age. I didn't consider it as art. I considered it as craft, because growing up, as I said earlier on in my presentation, my dad brought in another woman, or like married another woman. And as a result of that, because Africa, polygamy is accepted, unlike US, we were thrown out of like our home, and I had to live in squatter housing for the rest of my years growing up as a young boy. So living in this squatter housing forced me to kind of learn how to do things on my own. I was more like a troubleshooter within like the place where I lived. So I started by helping people like build their homes, helping people build shelters, scavenging around to fix people's things for them. So that was what really got me into art. And initially, I saw myself more as an engineer who kind of solves issues, or a problem solver for people. And that was what actually got me to start um, liking art. And as I grew up in this squatter housing and going on the street, I always saw that our chiefs from Ghana, which is the kings, they mostly put on like this rich cultural adornment of jewelry that were made of gold and silver. So that is something that I really loved to see. And I started kind of exploring it as a young boy, drawing them. And I think that is what kind of motivated me to go into medals and jewelry design as an artist. Besides that, I don't recall. I think I was very good at mathematics and science, but I realized that the passion that I had of like being able to use my hand to create something like God, right, is something that was very different among like people that I work with, and I decided to pursue that as a journey. And I believe that doing that, I have never turned back on that as an artist. So that is what got me into art practice in the first place.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love the way that you, especially in your presentation, have been repurposing those like traditional signifiers of Ghanaian male adornment and using them, for women in power. And I have more questions about that too, which we'll get to that. But Ìtùnú, are you with us?
Hi, I'm here. Good evening.
Hi, it's so nice to meet
It's been late
you.
here, so
Did you hear the question initially, or would you like me
yeah,
to
I
repeat
think
it?
I did. How
Okay.
I think the question was, how did I get into metal smithing or something?
Yes, that's
Okay,
that was it.
awesome. Hi, thank you very much to everyone that's given me the opportunity to be here and even speak. So how did I get into metal smithing? So I think similar to Glover, I had a science background. I loved mathematics and all of the other sciences, but I also had always been inclined to, leaning towards art as a form of expression and relief from, trauma and all of that. Finding solace in my space and my finding myself basically. So during the course of growing up and having to be moved around as well, I had to sort of I lost passion for art. Not maybe lost, but like I kind of like kept it at the back burner, and just to pursue what parents want you to pursue, because like Atinuke said, it was like a thing where it's like you can't do that because that's not lucrative and that's not a life prospect to have. So it was like, okay, just an hobby situation. So it was until 2017, I was in uni then. I entered uni with the course Metallurgical and Material Engineering. I was looking forward to learning like just coming out of it and actually exploring the material world, as I have always wanted to. But that's another story for another day. Like the school system here is another thing to cut into. Like it's just very limiting and very restricting, and it's like, oh, you can't do this because you are like, it's just so many rules that is very restricting. And the kind of person I am, I want to learn, but I want it to be as easy as possible, not something very complicated. But over here, it seems like you have to do so many things just to even get ahead in the school system in that sense. So I kind of realized quickly that this was not for me. Like the whole school thing was not fulfilling for me, and they were not even giving me the information I literally needed. It was just like theory, no practicality and all of that. So I took a step out of the school system and decided to explore materials on my own. So I had a mentor then, around 2018, and I was at a studio. Then I stumbled on this copper just lying around the corner in the studio, and I was just like, yeah, okay, interesting. And then I made those glasses that I made when I was 11 years old. And, she saw it and she was just like, oh, did you just make that? And I was like, yeah, I did. And then she was like, okay, you know what? I challenge you to make a head out of it. And I pushed myself and I actually made an head. It was a small head. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is something. I mean, I was very, I already knew what the malleability of wire felt like, but for some reason that felt very like, it felt like what I should be doing. So I embarked on the journey of, weaving with wires. And yeah, that's how I got into working with wires. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful answer. And that's really it's so lovely to have someone in your life like who will, just even if it's like one person who just like believes in you and sees something that you make and they're like, this is amazing. You need to dive deeper into that. So I'm so happy that you had that at that pivotal moment in your stage in your career as an artist. And it makes me actually think about all of you really push the boundaries of your materials. With Glover, you've got what's going on with the willow and the soaking materials, and Atinuke, like inlaying into wood with all of, the wood infused PLA. Incredible. And even in like you too, Ìtùnú, like in thinking about what you can really do to push the boundaries of wire and form. And so I'm just wondering how you all navigate that within your practice, about like how to know like how far you're going to push a certain material, whether you're, how you navigate not fails necessarily, but when you have moments that are frustrating, when things don't go your way, how do you persevere? How do you know when to say, I'm going to put this aside versus I'm going to continue, innovating and continuing breaking boundaries within those materials that you're using? Don't all rush to answer the question. Atinuke went first for the first one.
So should I go first?
Oh, you can, absolutely, if you would like to.
Okay, so if I get the question right, you are asking how do I know when to push the boundaries of material and all of that. Anyways, for me, I think the materials I feel like the materials or the material called me, sort of, because it wasn't like I was actively looking to do that. I think I stumbled on it, and since I stumbled on it, it's been like a symbiotic relationship between me and the materials. Like I don't preconceive the next thing I want to make. It's sort of kind of like, it's just kind of like a journey that it tells me what next to do. It's like, okay, I'm in this state. So I made a mirror frame one time for a fellowship program I attended, an architectural fellowship, and theme then was an indigenous God, I've forgotten the theme, but it's something about the indigenous person and how we explore the available materials around us. And for some reason, I was at first thinking, how do I want to explore this theme? I don't know how to go about it. But then I realized that I was in a state where I was doing a lot of self-reflection in terms of, the way people react to how I express myself. Both in my immediate family and people outside, and how I even perceive myself also, and my interaction with communicating with myself and all of that. And the easiest thing that came to my mind was the mirror frame, because I thought about having that mirror as a symbolic form of interacting with myself and having conversations with myself, and being able to center myself. And I thought about that in terms of an indigenous home, where mirrors are like almost a thing. Every house has a mirror, and it's like, okay, so how do I want this material to express that particular thing for me? So I think the process of working with the wire, then if I say I designed what the mirror would look like, I did not design it. I just started working, and the wire kind of like tells me how to turn it, move it, and how it wants to be read. And I just flow with the process. So I think that's mostly it for me.
Thank you. I love an intuitive process. I feel like that's personally how I like to work as well, and just like responding to the material. And it feels like it is sometimes the best way to go. Definitely. I know that may not necessarily, Atinuke and Glover, that seems like that might not be able to fly as much with the processes that you're using. They seem like they may be a little bit less forgiving, but I'd still love to hear about, how you navigate, when is something going to break, when is something going to bend, how you push it.
Glover, do you want to go?
No, go for it.
So I think earlier on I realized that material is important for me, but it's not the essence of my practice. And the reason I say that is because I view the materials as like a painter views like the different types of paint. So whether it be watercolor or oil, there are tools in my tool belt. And that's how I perceive each thing that I try to do or push, is thinking of a particular shade of color that I'm creating that possibly no one else has, or no one else has come across yet. So when I'm pushing a material, I'm trying to investigate or figure out ways. I'm looking at the past because I feel like the past is very important. We cannot, like, I don't feel like I can move forward if I don't know what my past is. And so for me, wood was this essential foundational material in my practice, but it wasn't everything. It needed more. It needed seasoning, it needed salt, it needed other things added to it. And so I went ahead and started thinking of what can I incorporate into wood. So I embroider into wood. I do the electroplating in wood. Like everything is like seasoning for me, but the essence of it is a story. The essence of it is what I'm trying to get across to the viewer. And if I can get your attention by first looking at something that's unusual, then it's easier for my story to come across. And so I'm willing to spend the time and be frustrated with like trying to figure out why this material isn't working or pushing this material, because I know for me, it's a great in for my viewer. It's a great in to get my story across. And so I don't think I was lucky in grad school because grad school is great. You have people that you can talk to, you have resources, you can question, you can, so now is the test for me, now that I'm out of school, is the actual test of how much can I push a material. Because in school, it was easy to go, okay, I'm frustrated. And I go to an instructor, and I'm like, I can't figure this out. And they're like, okay, try this and this and this and see maybe that would work. But now I'm not going to have that anymore. But so we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out how much how much I'm willing to push now. But when I was in grad school, there was no limit. Like I would be frustrated. Everyone would have given up, but I'm like, this has to work because in my head, I can see it. So it has to work. But we'll see. We'll see.
I believe in you. I believe that there's a will, there's a way. And I completely understand when you're like, I know, I've got that feeling, I can see it in my brain. It's logically it's got to get there, but maybe technically we're not there just yet. I feel like you'll be able to persevere and push through. But that is a really wonderful thing about having that infrastructure at school. It's yeah. All right, Glover, how are we feeling?
Good.
Okay.
So my materials is very important to me in my practice because of what I normally talk about. So looking at my practice, because I used to live in this quarter housing that I always talk about, we had to scavenge for wood in order to be able to build our shelters that we lived in. So my process tries to adopt ways of using things that kind of informs my experience, so that once people kind of see the artwork, their experience can be felt in the work that I've done. So materiality is very important to me in my artwork. And one thing is that I don't just use the materials as just something that is physical, right? But they have symbolic weight attached to them. And in so doing, I believe that the material is able to kind of send a communication across. For example, I use metal, which is copper and steel, in part of my work. And the reason why I use steel is that there's a historical lineage to steel being used for armory, right? And for someone who is trying to create defensive mechanism for people, these are some of the materials that I can align to, so that once people see them, they will easily get they will easily kind of experience what I'm trying to talk about. Additionally, the psychological aspect of what I want to portray in my work, I'm trying to create defensive mechanism where when people see them, they will kind of push back, right? So all these things kind of, I ask myself, what material can I use in order to communicate the theme or the idea that I want to send across? So I don't just use materials for like material sake, but I use them to be able to convey the essence for which I'm making a specific work of art that I'm making. So you realize that in some work I use bullets, for some works I use brass screws that I forge them out, right? And it all one thing that I'm doing is that I'm using the history of the material and my history as connecting points within the artwork that I'm making.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think your work has it's really heavy, and it's really beautiful in the symbolism, but also in the technical exploration and the way in which you're navigating space. But it is also, I mean, I can see the need for that, duality within the structurality of the material, but then as you said, the conceptual weight as well. Most definitely. We do have a question from the audience, from Carrie Ann Quick. And she wants to know, she says that Afrofuturism is something that comes to mind when she looks at each of your bodies of work in different ways. Do either any of you connect with or feel influenced by that movement / aesthetic? And just in case we're not familiar with the term of Afrofuturism, I'm quoting from Wikipedia here. It says that Afrofuturism is a cultural aesthetic, philosophy of science, and history that explores the intersection of the African diasporic culture with science and technology. It addresses themes and concerns of the African diaspora through technoculture and speculative fiction, encompassing a range of media and artists with a shared interest of envisioning Black futures that stem from Afro-diasporic experiences. And I will say that it seems like all three of you have talked about, past and community and sort of representing forward. And so if you guys could speak to, if you see that in your work, if you don't see that in your work, if you connect with that at all, I feel like we can dive into that a little bit, because I have some questions that will probably tide off of that.
So I want to go first. So
Yeah.
I believe that Afrofuturism kind of falls very part of my work because it is a way of kind of bridging the gap between the past and the future. And that is what is something that I do. I try to look at my past experience and try to create adornment that can be used as protection for people. So I'm not just looking at experiences that is my past, but I'm trying to marry my past, right, together with the present to create a future of something that is not very common within our social space. So I think that's one thing that is very essential in my work. And Afrofuturism is equally talk about cultural resilience, right? And I believe that that is very essential to me in my work, making sure that I don't lose track of my identity as a Ghanaian, right, in a different space or within an American space. So I'm trying to carry specific cultural symbols within my history and bringing it to a contemporary world using traditional techniques as well as modern techniques within my practice as an artist as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Glover. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Ìtùnú, how do we feel on the subject of Afrofuturism?
Ìtùnú, are you gonna go?
Okay. So yeah, I think that could be applied to the Afrofuturism thing could be applied to my works when you look at them, because I think I infuse patterns that are already readily found in, Adire, for instance, patterns that you can readily find around in the context of African patterns and all of that. So I take that and I find a way to infuse it into, into something that I don't think most people, or into a medium that I think is something that most people are not really thinking of exploring in that sense. If you talk about the patterns in African, most of the mediums I have seen people express these patterns in, like Adire, and if you don't know what Adire is the native fabric textiles way of producing clothes and all of that. So I take some of those patterns found also in architectural buildings, like take works of the people like Demoso or the particular patterns that you find in their works that are very, interesting and very African. I kind of like find ways to infuse them into, my craft. And I don't know if you call that Afrofuturism, I guess, but yeah.
It's understandable. I mean, I think you can preserve your history and move forward into the future without being a part of Afrofuturism. I think that it's not mutually exclusive. But it feels like that's something that you may still be discovering and figuring.
Yours,
yeah. That yeah.
What? What? I thought I heard my name.
I said the floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Oh, me? Oh,
yes.
Okay. So this is a very interesting conversation because I had this conversation with an instructor probably my second year in grad school. And I had to go look up what Afrofuturism was because I had no idea. And I think at that time, and I'm still of that perspective, is I'm not certain that is what I will classify my work as. My work, the way that I look at it at the moment is looking at the past. And I'm doing that on purpose because even though I grew up in Nigeria, I grew up in the city. And a lot of city kids are not very imbued with the village life, which I envy. We are taking the traditional life and the traditional practices are not prevalent in those spaces. So I felt like I grew up in a very Western atmosphere. So for me, my practice is starting off investigating the past and getting to know my past, right? And then I connect that to my present. So a lot of my work, even though I'm using technology and using all these things that push boundaries, I'm still talking about now because I'm living now. And so when you look at my sculptures, when you look at my jewelry, I'm talking about life now. I'm talking about the life that I'm living. I'm talking about, dendrochronology, trees around us, like our environment. Like these are things that are present now. The aesthetic of it might look like it's not something prevalent around me, but the message is about now. So that's why I said I don't know if I fit into that bucket because I would like to be present in the time that I'm living. I would like my stories to be told and read by the future, talking about what happened now, right? So those things are important for me because I feel like that's what our ancestors did, right? People wrote books. We did oral traditions. We told stories. And that's kind of what I'm still trying to do. I'm just doing it with art. I'm just trying to tell those stories about our lives right now and hoping that somebody else connects to it. So I don't know the answer to that question. It's been thrown before. I don't know that I do.
Hi, I'm so sorry. My browser kicked me off, but I heard that last bit. Can I just ask Brianne, how are we doing on time? Do we?
I mean, this is the closer of the night, so
okay.
It's whatever you want.
Okay, no worries. I want to be respectful of, Atinuke, Ìtùnú, Glover, your time as well. So I've just got a couple more questions, but actually, Atinuke, that last bit of what you were talking about, making work about now and thinking about not necessarily it being in the future, but how it may be perceived in the future and sort of thinking about our ancestors. And I wanted to ask you all about that because, representation is a really important thread of this symposium. And I would say that I consider you all to be among the new vanguard of metalsmiths and jewelers, Black metalsmiths and jewelers, but specifically, West African, Nigerian, Ghanaian jewelers who are sort of, paving the way forward for this next generation. And so I want to ask you all, and you all have spoken about this, I think, in different parts within your presentation, but I would love for you to speak to a little bit how you see your work and your practice as a future ancestor. you know, thinking about the resonance and the mark that your work will have on future generations, and maybe if not what it will have, what you hope it will have, what you hope to pass on for other, you know, young Nigerian, Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean, and a lot of younger people who may have parents who are like, oh, this is not profitable, or may be in situations that may not be the most encouraging. But so what would you like to leave for the next generation? It was a long-winded way to ask the question, but anyone can go.
Okay, I know we're gonna run out of time soon. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one. Because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right? Being an artist is not easy. And we can coin it however we want. It's not. It looks good from the outside. It looks amazing. You get to fulfill your passion. You get to do the thing that makes you stay up till 5 a.m. in the morning and not feel like you're dying. But the reality of it is it's not easy. So I think for the future, I truly believe that being me is enough. Being me, stepping out of what is traditional or norm, like in my family. I'm not even talking about the society in general. I'm talking within my own small circle. Being me, deciding to do what it is that I think I was made on this earth to do is enough for those coming behind me. And I can say this categorically because I have younger cousins. So I'm the first on my mother's side, and I am the first granddaughter on my father's side. So I'm in our culture, that's a lot. Like everyone's looking up to you. And I have made a lot of mistakes, but I've given them the right to make those mistakes. And I've given them the right to pursue their passion. And I've given them the right to say to our elders, no. Before the Western world came and told us we needed to be architects or lawyers or doctors, we were artists. We followed different paths. Not everyone can be a doctor. Not everyone can be a lawyer. We need to realize this: for society to be well-rounded, people need to be able to pursue other things. And I feel like being me for the future, and hopefully my work resonates that as well, because I talk a lot about, you know, motherhood, being a woman, being somebody who's lived in different spaces and places, and struggling, like trying to find balance in yourself, who you are, who you want to be. Like, these are all stories that I hopefully reflect in my work. And I hope that the future generation realize that all that is part of life and that it's okay. Like, I think that for me, if I can leave that message, like, everything you're going through, some things are hard, but if it's making you who you are meant to be, you are enough. Okay, so I'm gonna be going.
No, I'm gonna cry. Oh my God. That was beautiful. That resonates very deeply with me.
Can I go?
Yeah, I think
Go,
Thank you.
please.
Thank
You
you.
just kicked me off again. I'm having technical difficulties, but go.
Okay. Thank you, Atinuke, for sharing, because you said something that stood out for me when you mentioned that, you know, just being you is all that you need to be to impact or influence future generation. And I think that's the one thing that also influences what I do as well. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, do anything to impress anyone right now. I'm only just doing things to sort of help my own self to be better, so that I can help other people to be better, so to speak. So in terms of future generation, I believe that, you know, the works of all the artists that I have seen that has influenced me would also kind of like be the result of what my work will end up being for people, you know, in the future. So it's not like I'm currently thinking immediately now that, oh yeah, I want to make sure that the generation coming next or coming after me would be copper weavers or copper wire weavers. I don't think that's the goal. I just think I'm just making, because that's the medium that speaks to me. And I can only hope that, you know, someone in the future would see it and be like, oh yeah, that's a very interesting medium. And, you know, maybe they want to pick up on it or not. So yeah, that's all I can hope for.
Thank you, Ìtùnú.
So Aminata, so as an artist, coming from where I came from and looking at my experience, I personally want to leave a very, I don't use the word huge, but to leave a legacy that even if I'm not here, or even if I die today, people can still be able to see what I did as an artist. And how I'm doing that is through the materials I use and through the artwork that I create. I believe that I'm leaving an artistic legacy where I'm using people who come later after me and use my artwork to tell stories, right? To tell stories of my culture, to tell story of my experience. So these are all ways that I'm trying to set pace when I'm no longer here as an artist. And also, I believe that the work that I'm doing, especially with regards to the first part of my work, which kind of adopt the use of kente, I'm using my artwork as a form of cultural preservation. So I'm using my artwork as a preservation of my culture within a new social space. So as when I'm no longer here, people would see that indeed we can use the kente weaving patterns as a way of making precious jewelry as well as the basketry that I spoke about in my presentation. Even though this is a craft that is very basic within my cultural space and my community, but here I'm elevating it to get something very precious, and in so doing, I'm using it to preserve my cultural like identity as a Ghanaian. Finally, talking about women empowerment, talking about inequalities, I'm kind of distinguishing myself as an advocate or like an advocacy, not kind of talking for women, but using my experience as an artist to highlight social issues within my society. And finally, I'm currently an educator and I currently teach. So one legacy that I would love to do is that I will have to impact my students to equally find their own artistic language. And not just that about education, but as an educator currently, I sometimes some schools call me to come and give artist talk to let them know about my work, and in so doing, I'm trying to leave a legacy for the next generation and the generation yet unborn. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for that. I think that was a wonderful.
We lost you. Okay. Are you back?
My browser doesn't want me to be good. It doesn't want me to be great. It wants me to fail. But as I was saying, thank you all so much. I think that was a wonderful breath of a way to to answer that last question and to speak to where you all are. I think I just have one last question so we can wrap up and everyone can return back to their daily lives. But I just want to know, what are you all working on right now? If we were to walk into your studios, what are we making? Can we get like a sneak peek of, not a visual, but just tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing right now?
So
Or you don't have to. You also don't have to. If you're like, I'm
taking it
what
to
I'm
my
working on right now is
brain.
rest, that's also okay.
No, it's fine. I'm currently.
Oh, I think Atinuke. Oh, I might not be able to hear you.
Oh,
Can I might be my sound. Can they? Okay, it's me. I'll be quiet.
Okay, so currently it's fine. Currently, I'm working more with integrating more materials with wood, because that's my foundation. That's my baby. That's my connection to the world. So I'm just trying new things, trying to figure that part out. I currently finished an embroidery piece in wood, and I absolutely love it. My mother loves it. My sisters love it. My husband loves it. So that always feels great when something resonates with that many people. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. We'll see what else is designated for the future in wood. But that's it for me.
So I primarily trained as a metalsmith, and I was given a position as an assistant professor, right? But as a visiting professor, sorry. But because I love to work in like digital fabrication, I was also given another they added another program to my course to start teaching CNC, 3D printing and laser cutting, right? So now I'm trying to see how I can bring in like these technologies in my work as an artist, and also to be able to make my work more um bring my work out of just being displayed as object and bringing it into the realms of performance, right? So currently, I'm trying to work with a museum, the museum of our university. We are trying to find ways to find models and find how my work can be a form of performance within a space in which like people will wear them. So that is what I've started working on, and we've started shooting the video. So very soon you're gonna see like people working with my work in space to see how effective the work is, kind of working, like putting all these works together in space where people are walking around them to show if they are very like efficient in creating defensive mechanism or giving personal space to the wearers who are done my pieces as well. Thank you.
So currently, I'm doing a lot of experimentation with wire and plastics. I'm trying to do like a mixed media, although I already work in a mixed media outlet anyways, but I'm particularly particular about plastic because I have this collection of plastics I've collected, and I've been trying to explore how to make something of them. Or so yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
I don't know if we lost Aminata.
We lost Aminata again. We did.
Well, I'll thank you all. And I want to thank Aminata if she can hear me or comes back. She did a great job moderating. Y'all did. No, we're great. And this is a great conversation and great presentation. So thank you.